a little bit briefly on that, Prabhu?
Yes, there's a devotee on this call, some lady named Rupa Manjari Devidasi. She's the wife of the late Nara Narayana Prabhu, and her and her husband, former husband, did a lot of research on this issue because there's various arguments that have been brought forward by proponents of the administration, of the Iskcon administration, that in 1977, on the 28th of May, Srila Prabhupada said a GBC should be elected for good. And they've written some very good articles and various emails with regards to that conversation, as well as the direction of management and the memo to all the temples that was issued by Srila Prabhupada in 1974. In other words, Srila Prabhupada envisioned that he wanted a society without centralization, without too much bureaucracy. What we have seen since 1977 is exactly the opposite. Now, the reason Prabhupada wanted that, he stated many times, he wanted independent temples that would be managed, registered separately, getting their own tax certification or tax exempt certification. And basically the GBC was meant as just as a supervisory body, just to basically supervise that things are going properly, that people are chanting their rounds, that the deity worship is doing nicely. It was never meant as a controlling entity the way they've set it up with the GBC Society of West Bengal, some concocted corporation that's like a holding real estate company that wants to control the assets of everybody. This is madness. Srila Prabhupada never envisioned, never did he ever give authorization for anybody on the GBC to start their own Society of West Bengal. That's a complete concoction. Incidentally, that society had a fraudulent signature on their registration. They forged the signature of one of the signatories. We know that. But besides that point, there is a lot of, although Prabhupada set up the GBC and had a lot of hope they would manage properly, they brought him this concocted guru appointment. I call it the LGEP, the Living Guru Experimental Project, that they have got this concocted idea that somewhere or other in that same conversation, I don't know, they squeezed that interpretation that Srila Prabhupada appointed them as his successor, Diksha Gurus, all of that. But the reality of the documentation does not support that contention. If we study Prabhupada's management principles and how he set up his society, he wanted the temple president to manage these temples, to be in charge, to take charge of the assets of the society, to manage the assets, and the GBC was meant to manage, and he had just designated some people to do a service to the society of initiating disciples on behalf of Srila Prabhupada. Oh, they don't like that idea because it doesn't fit into the personal motive of ambitious people. Now, they may say whatever they like about tradition and disciplined succession. The whole history that has taken place since 1967 clearly shows that there has been disobedience of Srila Prabhupada's instruction, not just on initiation, but on management issue, on everything. Just the fact that they set up their own separate society in West Bengal is evidence of that. And I mean, just within 1 week, I've got 3 different communications from devotees in Germany, some devotees in Trinidad, some devotees in India, and others who've been kicked out of Iskcon temples because they brought too many embarrassing questions for which they really don't have any credible answers. So this is not the kind of society that Srila Prabhupada envisioned. Prabhupada envisioned there should be open Ishtagoshti, where Brahmin devotees, temple presidents, sannyasis, and senior devotees could assemble and discuss this openly. Can you really discuss openly what's happened in the last 45 years? I mean, if somebody asks a question, they kick him out. What kind of society is that? So this point about the management, how Srila Prabhupada expected the management of his society, this is something that devotees you can go on any of the search engines, look at the word GBC, temple presidents. There are so many instructions. It's not like there is a secret. You know, there seems to be a secret cabal of people in this movement who made their own decisions to appoint themselves as acharyas, run across the river to some neo-math, and take some advice about putting on the uniform of the guru and it was going to tell you what to do, and all sorts of concoctions. And as a matter of fact, in 1978, when you were there, we know that within a few months after 1978, everything in the society was transformed upside down. The Guru Puja, the worship of the deities, the pranam mantras, the kirtans, everything was changed because of this concocted idea, this wishful, nonsensical idea that Prabhupada appointed these so-called successors, so-called material and spiritual successors, as it was described in one of the Vyasa Puja book of one of these self-appointed acharyas. Now everybody can protest and argue whatever they want about their so-called living guru and tradition. The result has been a disaster for this movement and for the devotees who have been driven away from the shelter of Prabhupada's movement. I'm going to stop there because I know that this could end up to be a discussion that goes on for hours and hours. But devotees can take shelter of Srila Prabhupada safely every single day. That's why Prabhupada said, the temples may fail, the devotees may fail, but my books will never fail. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you. You know, one thing is, before we finish up, I would like to get Bhakta Ran Singh to make a few comments, but I did come across something I sent to Yashodanandan, and I think Vinkat saw it as well. They're doing a conference coming up, a Vedic conference, a Zoom type thing. And they're including all kinds of different people in it, members of the Gaudiya Math, Mayavadis, scholars. They're all on this conference, completely mixing everything into one big hodgepodge of nonsense, completely against the principles that Prabhupada has expounded in his books on how we should present our philosophy according to his words only. So this is the unfortunate situation, and the function of our group is to inspire each other to carry on and represent our spiritual master by presenting his words only. Bhakta Ran, maybe you'd like to make a comment on the direction of management before we go to the kirtan.
Yashodanandana Prabhu basically summarized the whole thing, that Srila Prabhupada systematically set up the whole Krishna consciousness movement from 1965, incorporation of Iskcon 1966 with the constitution, and then the temples and centers were basically built around that by trained up devotees that Srila Prabhupada personally trained. And then as the temples were increasing, Srila Prabhupada envisioned a whole worldwide movement with, and then he wrote the direction of management in 1970. And he systematically over the years checked imbalances or takeovers or hijacking of, Iskcon by individual members. And then he established the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust in 1972. And before that, it was a Iskcon Press. So these are the histories of Prabhupada's movement. And unless one knows specifically how things were going back in time in 66, all the way till 1970, and then the the creation of Prabhupada's Bhaktivedanta Book Trust, and then Srila Prabhupada seeing how the management was not according to his standard, then he wrote that letter to Karandara in 1972 about how he wanted the corporation to be set up locally, individual devotees, and the senior devotees helping the junior devotees in getting up to the standard and everything. And then in 1974, as Yashodanandana said that the topmost urgency letter, all these things were never implemented. So the leaders from the very beginning had some ulterior motive in basically hijacking the movement. And this systematically occurred from 1970 to 1977,